What weird thing did somebody tell you that they shouldn't have felt so comfortable telling you? A strange coworker, whom I wasn't ever close with, decided to tell me at work, across the entire office, that she and her husband were having marital problems due to lack of sex. He wanted more sex. But since she wasn't trying to get pregnant, she didn't see the point and said he needed to get over it. This happened loudly, out of nowhere and with no prompting. What made it more uncomfortable was that she was our HR person. Chatting with another mom at the park. Now we can chat about some pretty weird things. Like, discussing your kids' pooping habits would be a normal conversation. Even to some extent discussing how things are going in the bedroom isn't that weird. But I've had some weird things other moms have confided to me. The one that stands out was a mom who confessed she was a closeted lesbian. In a loveless marriage who has a huge crush on her teenage son's girlfriend. It got even weirder too. Managed a restaurant and a man was there to service the building. HVAC or something. He seems anxious and starts rattling on about his girlfriend and then her brother and how said brother fucked a cow. Immediately apologizes. I don't know why I said that. I probably shouldn't have told you that. Sorry. Edit. Gentleman was odd overall. I don't think it was weighing on him that he had to share, but perhaps his general demeanor was awkward and twitchy. Business partner of my then boss. That had just introduced himself to me. Nice team you've got here. We should all go on a trip to Thailand together. You can fuck prostitutes without protection over there, they all have documents from their doctors showing that they're clean. Dude was also married. With 2 young daughters. What the actual fuck? My coworker went into great detail, including a hand-drawn diagram, about how constipated she was after one of her C-sections. She said she was so uncomfortable that she asked her husband to try to dig some of the poo out of her butt with his finger. So she put a towel down on the bed, laid on her side, and he got to work. After some successful digging she rolled over and noticed a butter knife on the bedside table and asked what it was doing there, to which he responded, well, it was too hard for my fingers. We are nurses. She told this story at the desk to a group of at least 5 people. We were all mortified. My sister told me she was getting her tonsils out, so that she would give better head. Me. Sits down for my lunch break at work. Random coworker comes and sits down and says to me, so I've been watching cartoon monster porn. Dude pays me at work. Then tells me he can't come. He can have an orgasm, but then needs to use a straw to get it all out. I don't know if this qualifies, but some drunk girl said I would be a nice weekday-only boyfriend very casually, and that felt like a very backhanded compliment to drop on me so suddenly. My 89-year-old grandfather told me his and his wife's favorite sexual position. Number 1 on the list of things I never ever needed to know. I see my mechanic like 5 times a year and he always tells me how many Asian girls he met online and had sex with since we last met. It's like an unprompted tradition he must get past before we can talk about what's wrong with the car. Waiting to get my windshield replaced a few weeks back. An older gentleman tried to hook me up with his son. Then went on to tell me about his wife who had died 8 months ago. And his son's relationship with his ex-girlfriend. She was pretending to be pregnant. This son is also on the autism spectrum. Though not as bad as the good doctor. Has psoriasis. And works at the deli counter of a grocery store, where he was forced to wear long sleeves because people were complaining that his skin was flaking into their meat. All within about a half hour or so. I have what is called a mother confessor face. Edit. I think this is proper etiquette. Thank you so much for the award, my first ever award. I'm so excited. Thank you. Kind stranger, I love you. Cashier at St. Louis Bread Company. Informing me she's on her period and flowing very heavily. I get it. I'm a fellow woman. But damn. It's a restaurant. Over my working life, different women coworkers have shared some pretty intimate things. Having the runs. How much difficulty she had getting her BF to fuck her. explaining her dating sexual history of the prior 7 years. With diagrams. ETA, diagrams, a kind of Gantt chart showing how they all overlapped. A mood web of qualities and faults. And a ruler as a visual aid to demonstrate dick sizes. Okay. Starbucks barista here. I was working the drive-thru and some lady comes in asking for an iced coffee with heavy cream. I pay it no mind as it's not even close to my weirdest order. She gets to the window and starts trying to explain the motifs behind getting this drink. By the way, I'm not getting this for the caffeine. I'm constipated. Whatever still hasn't fazed me. I'm used to weird shit like this. She continued. I tried an enema 2 days ago and that bullshit didn't work at all. That's where I had to stop and go to the back to breath. I was not ready for that. An ex-coworker, whom I barely knew, told me she was in a sexual relationship with her biological father. They had been together for about 10 years. And moved to a new city together. She was only 25 or so. I politely smiled. Switched topics. And went home shortly afterwards. Of course I kept that story to myself. But damn. And X200B. Edit. I hadn't thought about this story in decades. She was actually only about 22 or so. My sociology professor decades ago smoking outside of class with some of the guys as I was walking into the building. Me, is the school going to give you crap for smoking with your students? Him, I could be doing something else with my students. If you're interested. And he winked. Ew. A kid I was sort of friends with in high school told me that he regularly had sex with his twin brother. For the record. He had no history of ever being sexually abused. And from what he talked about, it was mutually suggested between the two. They were just gay and into incest. Edit, for those asking. No, they weren't identical. They were fraternal twins. Had a super weird chick who lived in our neighborhood once who asked me if I knew the rules of polygamy and swinging. I was like, no. She then proceeded to tell me some long, rambling story about a house party that her husband was invited to. But not her. Because they wanted to sleep with her husband but she couldn't come along to participate or watch or whatever. Her husband was probably 6 featuring 4. But weighed around 350 pounds. He was probably the original neckbeard. She was no prize either. I doubt anybody wanted to sleep with either of them. She also told me she hated sunbathing nude because her nipples always got super sunburned. Oh. Capital O. Okay then. I seriously wouldn't mind being arped by an octopus. You know. Like in anime and stuff. This was said to me by a coworker, female, while on the clock. During lunch rush. In the dining room. Loud enough for costumers to hear. What triggered this confession? I mentioned in passing how much I like fried calamari. Sitting with my fiancé's new friend and she starts bragging to me how she's been manipulating men including my fiancé into doing things for her. Picking up her paychecks for her. Babysitting her son while she goes on a date. Cleaning her place for her etc. Then she started showing me these long messages she'd sent to guys she had just met on dating sites telling them how my fiancé was her best friend and her standard for guys. My coworker told me he hate fucks his ex while choking her sometimes. That he considers paying a hooker to lose his virginity. It was back when I worked in retail. And he was a coworker. We didn't talk much. Only a couple of words. And only about work. Then one day he came to me. And dropped this bomb. At first as though he was joking. And tried to laugh it off. But he was dead serious. He also wanted to hear my opinion. But I told him that this was not a comfortable conversation for me. Later another co-worker told me he tries to talk about this to all female workers. And he hopes that one of us would offer him to take his virginity. So he doesn't have to pay. About 1-2 years ago. I worked in a clothing store. One day. An elderly lady came into our store. I asked her if she wanted some help and she said yes. We found what she was looking for and she left afterwards. All good. She came in again about a week later and looked around the store. After a while, she started talking to me. Now, I'm a pretty open person and a good listener. But I definitely felt like she crossed a line when she told me about the time she was pregnant and her ex-husband kicked her in the stomach and killed their baby. I felt sad for her. But we'd only chatted 1-2 times before. So for her to be telling me this made me feel very uncomfortable, especially since she talked to me like we were long-time friends. Yesterday the girl I'm dating told me that she had kissed one of my friends on Saturday. I actually appreciated the fact that she was being honest and thanked her for telling me something like this before we were like officially a couple. She got mad because I didn't flip my shit. I'm not on high school anymore. I'm not gonna go beat my friend for you. I felt she wanted me to be mad and fight for her. Fuck that. Did I dodge a bullet? I was going to a summer cottage owned by my work. Upon hearing that, a coworker of mine informed me that his daughter was conceived there. In the very bed that I was about to sleep in. Did not need to know that. And X200B. At all. That he ate out some girl with a big unwashed bush that smelled like piss. I brought it on myself. On 21st this month I was at a family meet. I started talking to a younger cousin who has seemed off and aloof for some time and in a shitty job for someone as smart and educated. After pressing for a time, he swore me to secrecy and told me that he did not get his degree in December 2017 cause he had been suspended by the university for a disciplinary issue. His parents have no idea. We held 2 graduation parties for him with significant gifts. He had a gown and his parents were in the graduation square very happy for him. Nobody cared to confirm. He said he has resolved the issue with the uni senate and will get his degree at end of year 2020. I suspect he could be on alcohol, drugs, and keeping the secret for 2 years might have changed the course of his life. I have not told anyone. A young female co-worker once told me how often she masturbated, 3 times a day as you're asking. My coworker told me that he has had flare-ups of gonorrhea over 30 times. He has herpes. And God knows what else. He said he can't remember how many times he's had a Q-tip swab in his dick hole. He doesn't believe me that I've never had an STD and is constantly bringing it up. I don't know what compels this man to constantly talk about STDs, but he must have a forest fire going on down there. My housemate, 2 weeks after moving in, casually mentioned he had been taking my food from the fridge as if theft was just a hobby. I was walking home from school once when some kid started walking next to me. Had never seen this dude before. And he's starting to talk about how shitty his life was. And that nobody liked him. And that he was getting bullied by literally everyone. And that he had no friends. The next day on my way home, I saw that he had mud all over himself because he had fell into a muddy pit. And he was screaming at a little kid that was probably 6 years younger than him. That didn't have anything to do with it. When he saw me, he instantly started to scream at me like it was my fault. How tight they remained after 2 C-sections. And how much their so loved it. I do not need to know that from a co-worker. I just don't. Edit. It is amazing that my biggest upvote in a long time is about a work colleague that wanted to talk daily about her cooch. Oh yes. I went through months of it. Training a new hire at my old job. Guy was a bit off. But that was pretty much the standard for where we were working. Giving him a tour of the facilities. Describing his job duties. He lets me know that his dad blew his brains out. By the end of my 2 years of working with him, I sympathized with his dad. I'm the one who tells people too much. In fact, most days I come to hate myself even more because of the constant stupid shit I tell people. My buddy casually told me how many women with boyfriends he slept with and it just pissed me off. In 1998, I was working a job at the Family Dollar. I didn't have a car. So I walked to work. It was not the nicest neighborhood. A rather round fellow walked up to me and said, "Hey, man. You got $5? I am looking to buy a rock." I said, "Sorry. Man. My ass is broke." He said, Do you like getting your dick sucked? I said. Yeah. By women. He looked incredulous. You have a preference? Me, yeah. Man. I do. He said. Oh. That's too bad. I like to smoke crack and then suck dick. I said. Okay. Well. Good luck. He said. I'm not gay. Though. Me, oh. Of course not. See you. Exhumed. Fun times. I used to work at a daycare center over the summer as an aide to an older teacher. On one occasion a mom came to pick up their kid and just started ranting about how they have marital issues cause the husband thinks they are an unfit parent and how now they don't even fuck and stuff. In front of the kids. All the white stuff all over his shirt was cum. That was back in high school. Kind of wish I had learned this even sooner, but immediately after moving in with my freshman year roommate who I met on Facebook was when she decided to tell me about her night terrors and that she had almost gotten expelled her senior year of high school for drug dealing.